Good evening, everyone. Esteemed panelists and all our valued attendees that have graced us with their presence and taken some time out of their such a busy schedule. Today, we are truly elated to witness an unprecedented gathering. I think the panelists and the people that we have gathered are truly of magnificent stature. We have people from industry leaders, we have academia personnels, and we have head of associations. We have with us editors from media houses. And only thing that's tying us together is this unprecedented phenomenon that is taking place in the Indian landscape, and that is global capability centers. Let us formally introduce each of the panelists. We have with us Mr. Anish Sahay. He's the Deputy Director and Head of GCC and BPM Initiative. Yes, sir. So glad to have you here. He takes care of GCC and BPM initiatives at NASSCOM. Right, so we are so thankful for you to be present here, sir. We have also with us Dr. Sanjeev Rastogi. Sir is CEO of GCC of Adani Group. And hello, sir. So nice to have you here, sir. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. We also have with us Mr. Rajesh KS. He's Chief of Staff at Lloyd's Tech Center, India. So nice of you to join us, sir. Thank you. And further down the line, we have Mr. Shailesh Singh. So glad to have you here, sir. He's a senior business and tech writer. He has been contributing to Mint, Financial Express, Business Times, Business Worlds, etc. And sir's profile is truly great. And the kind of prolific writer he is, it's truly immenseful to read and learn from sir's articles and his point of view. We also have with us Mr. Rajesh Sahay. He's the VP and Head of Global Business Services and he's also the board of member at CrowdStrike. And so thankful for you to take time out for this insightful conversation, sir. We are truly thankful for you. And we have Mr. Alok Kumar, who is our host. He's a serial entrepreneur and author of the book Advantage India. We'd also like to cover some of the topics like the whole GCC thing that's been taking place. It's because of the Advantage India only. Right, sir. He's also the CEO and MD of Inductus Group. So thanks and so much elated we are for all of you to join us for this insightful discussion. And without further ado, let us bring this session to an inception and hopeful for an insightful interactions for all of us. Please, sir. We'd like to start with Anish Sahay, sir. If you just could give us a brief overall or overview of all the GCC, what things have happened, this unprecedented phenomenon that we are witnessing for the past 5 years. And just a short glimpse or brief about how we see where it's headed. Because this unprecedented moment that it has catched upon in the few years. If you could throw some light on, sir, please.
Thank you, SSV, for the introductions and getting this very esteemed panel together and having a very interesting topic to discuss today. So good evening to all the viewers online now. Coming to your questions, how do we see the growth of GCC and what the future looks like? So let me put things in perspective first. So NASSCOM, along with our partner, we have recently done a landscape report, GCC landscape report in September, which tracks the journey or growth of GCC in India since 2019. We do these kind of landscape report every alternate year, but this year we thought a lot has changed on the ground and it needs to be, observed very in detailed way and then brought out to the entire world of what has changed over the past 5 years. So to put things in perspective, the first thing is the growth of number of GCCs. So as on today, when we talk about, we have close to 1700 plus unique GCC setups in India, and that account for almost close to 2975 is close to 3,000 units operating out of India, right? So that's one. Second, in terms of if you're looking at the CAGR, we are almost close to 5% in the last 5 years. And in that itself, the ER&D space is a more vibrant and faster growing segment. Now, this tells, we can draw some inferences from this. One, though we started, as captives or capability centers, now the latest trend is that people are looking at having the portfolio hub, transformation hub, right? So that's a clear, distinct trend that we are seeing. And a lot of almost like 30 to 35% of the GCCs, current GCCs, are already in that portfolio hub maturity level. So that's a clear trend. In terms of the global roles shifting to India, that's another distinct trend that you will observe, right? So as of now, there are some 6,500 global roles, or that we see in the 1,700 GCCs, and the projection is that in the next 5 years, this may go up to as high as 30,000 global roles out of India. Which in next 5 years, if you look at the growth of the number of GCCs, it will be close to about 2,200 plus GCCs from the current 1,700, right? And also in terms of the revenue, currently we are close to $65 billion, and that's projected to cross the $100 billion in the next 5 years. So this is the kind of, in a very, very brief way, this is a quick summary of where we stand now and how 5 years down the line it looks like.
So,
very good.
Right. So, Alok, sir, if you could, give a brief introduction on how these, why these unprecedented phenomenon has occurred. Because this is unheard of, post the IT boom of 2000s. So, if you could share some insight or your thoughts upon.
I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Right. So thank you very much, Yashashvi, for the question. So there are many things responsible for it. Right. So if anything is happening in any of the country, it can't be seen in isolation. Right. So there are 2-3 factors, very important factor, which is responsible for this. First and foremost happens to be the way we have opened up our economy, the way things have worked out in last 7, 8, 10, 12 years or so. So that has given a boost to the image of the country, number one. Number two, you have to also take into account the demography, right? The current demography of India, which clearly reflects that 60% of our population comprises of people less than 30 years of age, right? And third, most importantly, one important phenomenon is there. Like in last 10, 15 years, because see, again, as I said, you can't see it into isolation. So there are many factors responsible for it. So the way our population have grown in last 10, 15 years, accordingly, the number of good quality educational institutions have also come up, opened up, and particularly into the tier 2 cities, right? Tier 2 cities. So that has also given a whole lot of talent to come to the market, right? And let me also tell you, GCC is all about 60% of the GCC, or the success of GCC depends upon the kind of people, the kind of talent we deploy, right? So that contributes to around 60%. If there are 2 other factors apart from talent, technology and infrastructure. So 50 to 60% of it is talent. And in terms of talent, India obviously leads the world. So the kind of talent we have, the kind of tech talent we have, the kind of English-speaking people we have, though it is still in making, though it is still taking shape, but in years to come, in time to come, I'm sure this phenomenon is further going to get deeper into the Indian ecosystem, right? And most importantly, the biggest thing which I personally feel has contributed to the growth of the GCC is the kind of image we have been able to create about India outside into the global fraternity, right? And moreover, apart from GCC, you have to also take into account other development which is taking place, like data center, like many other development into IT which is taking place. And as you know, that India has always been known for IT, last 15, 20 years. NASSCOM is the champion of it. They have always supported the Indian IT industry, and we know it. I mean, since we are also a part of it, so we understand it very well. So thing is that the way India has led and the India has contributed. So obviously India has a name, India has a credibility in the marketplace. And let me also tell you, I mean, two segments. If you look at the America, USA, as well as Europe, including UK. So the organizations, I was in discussion with some of the organizations. Let me tell you, currently might be we have around 1800 GCCs operational in India. But according to my estimation, by 2030, the number of GCCs are going to cross 3,500 in India, 3,500, right? And that will lead to, I mean, though we are going to discuss about that, today morning I was having a word with Mr. Rajesh also about the same, because though it is also going to create a lot amount of vacuum, lot amount of in terms of talent. So industry and academia also has to come out. Industry and academia also has to now join hands, and I'm sure other panelists, I will also request other panelists, our esteemed guests, to contribute on that, because they have been a part of industry, and they are, I'm sure most of you must have struggled as far as getting the quality and the good talent, I mean hiring, because we are also in an industry, we are also a company, and it has been a perennial problem for us. So that is also one area where industry and academia should come forward. So we are also working on, I'm sure NASSCOM also must be working on, and our respective panelists, they also must be thinking on it. So these are the primary things. So I have given you an overview, and I expect my other colleagues, other panelists, if they can also contribute, because this is a very a burning issue as far as industry is concerned. Like I could see Rajesh nodding. So he also must be facing the same kind of problem. I can, though I have not interacted with him. So, I mean, Mr. Rastogi, so I would like to have a perspective from you also, sir. What is your take on that? Thank you.
Mr. Rastogi, do you want to take this, or I can take it after that?
I can take it. So, I think let me challenge the other way around. I think the names have changed over the last so many years. I have spent 32 years in this journey, right from 93, when the first GCC was set up with American Express, and Stanchart, HP, Metro, Syngenta, Deloitte. Last 5 years, I was running the global operations for Deloitte, India operations, and then joined Adani Group 6 months back. Trying to do something which a multi-industry, divisions, multi-functions, GCC into one. While most of the GCC focus on labor arbitrage, cost arbitrage, in Adani Group, it's a very different industry. So look at 11 different industries we are in and trying to create one GCC. While most of the industries are one and they create one GCC. So here the cost is not the arbitrage. I think where we need to see how many of these GCCs will survive in 2030. So I think it's not a number game. Will we be able to transform? Will we be able to create value? And I think the clear mantra is that unless the GCC is part of the core strategy of the business, because the way business environment and globally everything is changing, the Indian GCCs has to be part of the strategy group of the parent company. 25% of the global headcount should sit in the GCCs, and at least 30% of the leaders should come from the GCCs from India. And that's where the value and the impact will come. If I'm doing mess for less, or if I'm looking at labor arbitrage and just trying to do efficiency gains, we are not in for this. And if you look at the number of GCCs, some are very, very high end in terms of R&D, innovation, etc. But if I look at less than 500, there are many. And a lot of companies are coming to me, and while they have come to me, I've spoken to at many NASSCOM initiatives and other shared service initiatives. They're struggling to find the value. And I think it's just the placement of GCCs which will play a clear role. India will be the hub and the capital of AI and Gen AI. I can bet on this. And the GCCs need to adopt this to create that value and transform. And when I went to Gautam Bhai, and I'm putting on record, and I said, we are going to create a GCC. He said, if you save me 300, 400 crores, it won't matter. The crux of the matter is what value you bring, what streamlining you bring, what standardization you bring in the services, and how you can transfer using new technologies. And the important thing is using analytics to create business decisions and business insights is going to be the key. So I think I will say that next 2030, rather than using global capability centers, we should have game changer catalyst. So that's a new definition I will give to the GCCs. And unless we move into that direction, I think we are not in for success. And I think NASSCOM is a great body, a great partner, and they are part of the journey with all of us. So I think we need to drive that message that if you need to create a world map of GCCs, we need to be a game changers and catalyst for the parent organization. So that's what I would say from my side.
I actually love that, Mr. Rastogi. It's a very nice term to use, right? Game changer and a catalyst, something that the whole of the world, the rest of the world could look up to here. So adding on to the point that Mr. Alok brought, we here at Lloyd's Technology Center, subsidiary of UK's largest retail bank, have been rather late in entering the GCC space of India. Like it's been 12 months, a little less than 12 months since operations began here in Hyderabad, while Lloyd's Group is the oldest banking group in UK, a little over 350 years old. So there's a famous dialogue in southern India from Rajinikanth, right? You come late, but you will always come the latest, right? Literally translating. So there's a lot of learning that we would have seen as we enter, as we entered this market 12 months ago, having seen our peers and our friends or competitors, call them whatever, having tried and tested a bunch of things. They've succeeded in some, they failed in a few, right? So being late is not a problem. One of the learnings is that what is it that you're actually going to pick up from day one, right? And how are you going about with that journey? So we here, have picked up some very ambitious goals on actually delivering that real value that somebody's looking forward to when they're setting up a center over here, right? It's no more about cost arbitrage. It's more about, can you stand alone all by yourself and start generating that value that this organization is looking at. Value is coming in the form of the IP creation that we do out of here, the whole lot of knowledge that the digital economy of India could provide to this larger world out there. Amazed at the plethora of talent that's available here, and we still say that's not enough. And that's where I wanted to touch upon Mr. Alok's point that there's only so much that our schools, our engines, our engines that actually manufacture, if I could use that word, or create that set of people, the knowledge, the resources that we need out there. So there's a lot more need coming in from out there in the ecosystem for the for folks like ourselves to engage with universities at grassroots level, engage in the curriculum creation, engage in actually tuning the engineering and research driven mindset that we have coming out of these universities to be more attenuated to our organizations. So we see such collaborations gaining momentum. In fact, we are doing that in Hyderabad as well, where we are set up, and hopefully in more cities as we progress in the coming quarters.
Very well put together, sir. So I think Rastogi sir very well pointed out this that how many GCCs they are like absolutely pouring it in, but how many GCCs are truly going to stand till 2030? So if I think Rajesh Menon sir from CrowdStrike, if he could take up like what kind of risk diversification or pitfalls to watch out for, a kind of subject matter expertise opinion on the same, if you could share. And Rastogi sir also pointed out about the AI ML integration and all those prerequisites. So who better to speak it upon than Professor sir, Sridhar sir? Please, if you guys could take it up and share your thoughtful expertise on the same.
Sridhar, you want to kick in?
Yeah.
No, please go ahead.
No, absolutely. A lot of value and the thought process, I think, here is diversified the way we look at it. do not disagree with anything. But then it's also, I think the way how GCC is looked upon or GBS is looked upon, we probably incubated thinking about cost centers and cost arbitrages. But I think that conversation is far behind. And currently, the only way any of the GBS or GCCs or GICs can probably exist, I think it's also going to be part of the embracing innovation platforms. If that is not going to be inculcated within these thought process, I don't think we really will be sustaining, because still, I would, among the 1,700 we're talking about, at least 40% still work as back offices or trying to define themselves where they are now. They're not empowered or skill scaled as much as what the organization needs. I also see how most of the GCC is still struggling to see just doing the day-to-day transactions, but they're really not moving into innovations. They're definitely not thinking what next in the next 3 to 5 years. If any of these organizations really want to add value propositions in the way they look at it, I think its long-term strategies are extremely important. Assessments of what kind of skill sets we need here is extremely important. How we can probably place ourselves to continuously improve, sustain, and probably even do better. Because, of course, there's huge investments in India. If you look at it, the tier 2 cities are literally racing ahead of the tier 1s who came in. And there's huge numbers of investments. I mean, recently, which I heard, we have close to around 6.7 million in a place like Pune, square feet taken away by the GCCs itself. And if you break through within different categories of technology or manufacturing industries, talk about anything, the buzzword is GBS or GCCs, but then the thought process is that how long can we go and what's required? That, I think, is going to be the most important challenge if you look forward to, if you want to really move ahead. Look at GBS and GCCs this way forward for most of the entities to grow with.
So from the angle of stepping up and adding value, the Gen AI trend probably is a good one to chip in with. So I've been engaging with this topic at 3 levels. One is as an academician, preparing people to enter the industry, and in the form of executive education and some sort of consulting. Now, what I see is there's a lot of interest in becoming sandboxes. GCCs are being seen as sandboxes. That number could increase, and that number could probably become the norm, right? When we say GCC, we are going to see it as a sandbox for Gen AI. But if you see the real adoption, there are some solid blockers like data readiness, creating the right sort of use cases, executive buy-in. So what if there is a special thread which just runs across GCC saying we're going to make Gen AI the theme? And among all the things, my personal favorite is don't look for the shiny toys, but go for the real challenge, which is, can GCCs become a data hub? If you see, global theaters have siloed data. There's a lot of cross skills needed. There's a lot of intelligent application needed in becoming the data platform. I think that would be a great differentiator, because once you build that, you can then use that to showcase potential value across regions. And that's what we are talking about from a 2030, 2050 point of view. That's how I look at it. And one other angle that I see GCC is not doing enough. There's a lot going on, but not doing enough is the academia collaboration. It's something that is very easy, highly impactful. I would encourage that angle also. So summarizing, become the Gen AI partner for your principals, parents, whatever terms you want to use. And within that, look for the hard problems to solve, not the shiny toys, and participate in academia.
So very good.
If I may come in here a bit, I just wanted to pick few of the points that some of the panelists made. So I'm glad, while I started this conversation by talking some numbers and the growth numbers, right, just to put things in perspective. But what I am glad to hear is that across the board, whether it is industry, whether it is academia, everyone is talking about innovation, value creation, the collaboration that needs to happen between industry, academia, government, right? And most importantly, no one goes away from that point that it is not about cost arbitrage anymore, right? It is still there, but it's not the factor because of which global companies are looking at setting up GCCs. So this clearly tells me that if we have across the board, if we are agreeing on so many things, that certainly we are making the movement in the right direction. Yes, there would be challenges, and there are challenges, and that is where we have to enable that, more collaboration, more open discussions like that, where we can come together, create platforms, and then try to solve those problems together.
Very well said. Rajesh Menon sir also touched upon this influx towards tier 2 cities and this industry alliance, I think industry academia synergy. So if Shelly sir, if you could throw some light, because you have been covering all these phenomena and in event in a very prolific manner. So what kind of economic impact in short or long term are you seeing, and some sort of inclusive growth across the Indian geography witnessing? And Alok sir, if you could share some of your insights on the same as well.
Yeah. So thanks a lot. It's really great to be a part of the panel and discussing GCCs. The numbers are really telling. And that makes for a very interesting thing. But as some of the panelists said, you have to also look beyond numbers. And just before I get to the tier 2 cities and all, just a thought around the previous query, the cycle of innovation and all, like back in the 90s when the earlier GCCs were set up, American Express, British Airways, GE. As and when some of the work became, probably less core to them or more commodity, they farmed it out to outsource it to third-party providers while they themselves had a lot of top-end work in-house. And the similar cycle we see now, probably more so because some of the innovation around AI, they don't want to, be it an e-commerce company or a bank or pharma or any other, they probably want to control and do it in-house before they farm it out to third-party. So, and now coming to the tier 2 cities. So if you go back to the 90s itself, the start of this whole outsourcing wave, I won't spend too much time on it, but just for the context of it. So because work could be sent via internet and you could tap into a resource which was efficient, low cost, the initial motivation was obviously cost. It came here. So now that on the bottom of that, we have built an industry which is more than $250 billion, which employs more than 5 million people. So now this has led to a boom in our cities, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi NCR region. They benefited immensely from the growth of this. But some of these cities are now packed like sardines. If you want to open a new center in Bangalore, what are the things that a GCC would be looking for? Affordability, access to talent, infrastructure. So all three counts, if you break it down, things are not very easy. Like, okay, you can get maybe affordability is a bit of a challenge in Bangalore if you come with a cost-saving kind of mindset, or cost-saving is definitely one of the many things that you want to do. Then getting talent, well, you will get talent in Bangalore, in Hyderabad, in Delhi NCR, but probably the attrition rate will be touching around 20%, or could be higher in some cases. And the talent will also be expensive. So how do you solve this problem? So some of the answers came with COVID, when there were always some bright spots. So you could farm out work. A lot of people went back home to the small towns, or even some of the remote area. The other day I was talking to someone who said he actually worked from a village in those days, simply because connectivity was there and he could log in. So the same, if talent is there in remote areas, why not go take the jobs over there rather than ask them to move to big cities where they find multiple other challenges in terms of their own cost of living, their own expectations of how things should be. So that has led to GCCs trying to figure out, okay, can we go to smaller towns? Can we go to where the talent is? And out of the 1,700, 1,800 odd GCCs at present, around 150 of them are in remote areas. And it's not that all of them like started in remote areas. Probably they still have a main center in a Bangalore, in Delhi, or Delhi NCR, or Gurgaon, or Hyderabad. But they will have, they're probably experimenting, or they're trying to build up a center even in remote locations. And with the hub and spoke model, trying to balance out the kind of work that they do in these two, because about 15-20% of India's tech talent resides in tier 2, tier 3 cities. So, and typically that has about 30-35% lower costs in terms of cost of living, in terms of cost of labor, and attrition, a very big factor in determining. So attrition will be by and large much lower in a small city, in a tier 2, tier 3 city than in a big city, because in Bangalore or Hyderabad or Gurgaon, the companies will always be competing for talent, and that will lead to its own problems of higher attrition, higher costs. So that is pushing these developments into remote areas, and which are picking up pretty good. So the numbers might still be small, about 150 out of the 1,800, but if you want to really grow and scale up, that's the way to go. Alok, you want to add?
Yeah. So thank you, Shelly. I mean, all the points you have covered, and I could say that these are the most relevant. And one more, these were the one most relevant point. And one more thing I wanted to add on, because see, our metros have reached to a level of saturation, right? I mean, in terms of, particularly in terms of, not in terms of infrastructure, but in terms of talent. Because I was speaking to some of the existing GCCs there in the metro cities, and most of them, let me tell you, 80 to 90% of them are facing the acute crunch of talent. They're not able to hire good people matching with their expectations. So where now this trend has to go, I mean, ultimately, if further new centers have to open up, maybe suppose if a center is based out at Bangalore or Hyderabad or any other place, they might have to also look for satellite centers, right? And those satellite centers, on the basis of maybe a particular kind of a skill set, a particular kind of technology, could even be, the industry should think of opening up into the tier 2 cities. Why to go to the tier 2 cities? Obviously, it is going to be cost effective, number one, most importantly. Number two, talent is available in abundance. There is no shortage, there is no dearth of talent. We did one survey in the city of Jaipur, and let me tell you, most of the core talent which any GCC looks for, they can meet. At least 2-3 GCCs they can meet with the current availability of the talent over there, currently available. So this is there. One more thing, I mean, from industry perspective, any industry always looks for, that is inclusivity. End of the day, you can't, any economy can't be only metro centric or tier A city kind of centric, unless until we go deeper. The moment we go deeper, we get better access to the talent, better access to the infrastructure, and that has been possible because of the, as I said during my first deliberation, that is now possible because of the kind of quality colleges and institutions have come up, right? So these are the things, and also in order to promote the inclusivity and for that sake convenience, see, connectivity has improved. During last few years, you will see India's connectivity in terms of flight connectivity, train connectivity, and other road connectivity. It is improving with every passing day, right? With that, the development should also go to from the tier 1 city or the metro. It should now move towards, and it is moving towards. That recent trend has been seen. Only thing is that what I personally feel, which is needed at this point in time, that we also need to closely connect with the academia, because maybe with the IIMs, Professor Sir is there with us. IIM, I mean, professors of I might be knowing what is required. IITs might be knowing. But what about those colleges, institutions which are available in the tier 2 cities or around tier 2 cities? If India has to grow inclusively, the tier 2 cities also have to contribute, or other sector of the country also have to contribute. So we also need to educate. I'm sure NASSCOM will be thinking. They are also advisory. I mean, they discuss closely, work with the government. So what I feel, I mean, we must discuss with the government. We must try to find out a mechanism by which can we reach out to the tier 2 cities, I mean, the universities and colleges around tier 2 cities, and we can tell them, we can educate the professors itself, and through them we can transmit the knowledge and transmit the know-how to the newer workforce which is about to come. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Alok, let me add few things to what you
Sure.
pointed out. Yes,
Sure.
there is a very definite efforts being made again from NASSCOM in collaboration with state and central governments and the various other stakeholders, which is industry as well as academia. And we are not calling it tier 2 or tier 3 cities. We call it the emerging hubs, right? I think that's the right definition for those. And in the spirit of a more equitable growth across different regions in India, we are looking at 26 emerging hubs in different all parts of the country. So just to name the few, like if you go north, it's Udaipur, Jaipur, Lucknow, Kanpur, Ranchi, Bhubaneswar, Trivandrum, Coimbatore, and if you go on the west side, it's like in Indore and in Vadodara, places like that. So all across the regions, we are looking at developing these things, and there are various factors. The ecosystem takes time to build, and we cannot be complaining if not everyone is jumping to the to set up a center in these emerging hub in the first go, because there are a lot of factors that come into play. Even if you have a cost advantage, but if you don't have the right kind of a talent, if you don't have the right kind of an infrastructure to support this, all can impact the main reason why you're going there. But what I'm glad to share in this panel is that collective decisions are being made, discussions are happening. So a lot of state governments are coming with state specific GCC policies where they are giving special incentives to build GCCs in this tier 2 or tier 3 or emerging hubs, as we call them, right? So there are government support coming in. We, at a local level, we are looking at, the Future Skills program from NASSCOM. They are looking at collaborating with the local university and academia to come up with some, and to kind of tie up with the native talent. There are again pockets of where you find specific domain skills naturally in some regions. So how can we build upon that so that it becomes a natural natural place for those kind of verticals to go there? So these are some of the things that are happening. But yes, it will take some time to really show in terms of numbers.
Very well said, sir. So we can see from the government side, like couple of state governments have come up with their GCC policies. They are giving subsidies and incentives. So I would like to ask Mr. Rastogi sir, Mr. Menon sir, and Mr. Rajesh sir, all the people who are subject matter experts in running their very own GCC and GBSs. So what kind of burden does this kind of talent crunch or attrition rate, is there any onus on the industry side regarding nurturing the talent and upskilling the current talent? And if Sri Nivasan sir could add upon, what kind of onus on the colleges and the academia sector does that fall to upskill and nurture the right kind of talent for this upcoming industry?
I think our fellow panelists have covered it all. On the academia, I think what the GCCs and IT industries are doing is they go into third year or the final year and they start working on. So in Deloitte, we're already engaging with the colleges, and we went to tier 2 colleges. There's no need to go to tier 1 colleges because we realize the attrition rate is much higher because the people are quite ambitious. So first, you need to create an ecosystem where you work with the colleges to create the curriculum, and you take a choice, and then you start building that knowledge. And the whole campus to corporate program has to be structured very differently, because one of the challenges is that while you hire good colleges, you hire from tier 2. We set up a center in Bhubaneswar, in Coimbatore, The challenge was it took us a lot of time to even get them production ready or get them ready to work. So unless you engage very early in the stages of second year or third year of engineering and then start building that ecosystem, I think that will really help. Then what topics you want to bring into the final year, I think that is important so that they are ready and they are mentally prepared that what they are getting into. So you need to build that ecosystem. The other part is that with so much of change in the technologies and AI, generative AI coming in, there's a lot of fear, a lot of jobs which are transactional are going to get automated. So we are looking at gigantic automation, a big thing. I'm speaking on automation anywhere on 19th. That's an Imagine very pan-world program. So one is creating digital agents and etc. So what we did was you need to upskill your people to retain talent, and that's important because if you lose a key performer, it takes 6 to 9 months to replace him with the kind of knowledge he loses and all that. So one thing is just how do you retain your talent? Salary is not something which attracts, and brands nowadays has become agnostic because people join multinational. So brand agnostic, except for few organizations, people don't care about the brands. So I think you need to upskill. You need to create an academy within the organization, which I'm doing currently in my current role, where we need to upskill people. We need to tell them what it means for their career. The longevity, which was 3 to 5 years, some 10 years back, has come down to 18 months with the current millennials and generations which we have. And this will further go down to 10, 12 months because they are risk averse. They want to take risk and they want to grow. So I think whatever you do, unless you engage them meaningfully, I think that will become a challenge. And as so I'll stop here. There are a lot of things we need to do as an ecosystem while the state governments have come with a policy, and Karnataka was one, etc., etc. And I think a friend from NASSCOM was saying it's the entire ecosystem which attracts that what kind of culture is in the city. And I'm give you an example of Ahmedabad. When you try analytics and IT, because it's a dry state, that becomes the first thing. And now Gift City has come up. They're trying to innovate. They're trying to bring. So it's like ecosystem of the city, the culture in the city, the working environment in the city, and how the people see GCC. I think that also plays a bigger role. It's just not about opening a center in GCC and just running with it. If you were to ask in Coimbatore, somebody working in night shift, you won't get ladies working in Coimbatore or Trichy or Kochi in night shifts. And you go to Gurgaon, Bangalore, everybody works. So there's an ecosystem. There's a cultural issue as well. So I think we need to look at holistically while we say tier 2, tier 3. There are a lot of colleges and etc. So I think it's a complete ecosystem which NASSCOM is trying to create, work with industry, work with colleges. So this will take time, but we really need to invest if we were to expand the tier 2 in the value curve. You can do transactional processing without language agnostic and agnostic work. That will happen. But you have to move tier 2 up to the value curve and attract larger companies, larger multinationals. Then you need to work on the ecosystem.
Yeah, much agreed on that. If I can chime in, I would say the culture maturity is extremely important, given the new thought process on the GCC is very different. The kind of people who would like to join, and they prefer to have the fast in, door out and fast out, and they're always looking. Their requisitions are different when it comes to career aspirations and what they look through. I do see a few of the organizations have married into internship programs and invest hugely on learning and development. I think that is one other point which we need to stick out very strongly when it comes to GCCs, because if you want to have longevity, you look at marathon runners in the organization who can stick with the organization. Then it's more about educating them what's in it for them, because I think that's the common conversation everybody has when you get into an organization. Why should I be here? And attrition is never a story which is ever going to end in India. I think as much as we've all spoken about how many GCCs are coming in, which clearly means to say that there's that much of opportunities for people to choose in. So when you have a good side of the story, there's always a bad side of the story too. And that's what happens. So there's always people jumping in, and anyone who's skilled, experienced, I think they're going to be picked. They're going to be poached. They're going to be the ones hunted down. So we're definitely going to be learning through that. So from a GCC standpoint, I think building an ecosystem, looking at single point of failures, considering a 30% backup plan where you see why we need to continue, we need to have the continuous improvements and why we need to keep the job roles going consistently and not breaking the chain of innovation, or how we scale year on year that's the true ROI according to my thought process, because we need to make sure that those value streams are completely running without a shortage of fuel in the way we think through. So nevertheless, as much as more which is coming in, moving away from being transaction centers, how much we amalgamate between people and technology, I think is another way of looking at how to keep this going. The whole engine has to perform the way it needs to be. I think end of the day, the conversations about what is GCC giving back, and why do we have governments actually investing into GCCs these days, be it tier 2s or tier 1s. I think everybody sees the value system coming. There's a huge value stream in this ecosystem, the way we want to build through this. The thought process is to see, if you look at NASSCOM, if you look at any bodies, what they're talking through is that they know that GCC is the way forward. But the change management theory, or the mindset to change and keep doing continuously better, I think is the only survival mode, and probably we could propel best on that way.
Very well said.
If I may add,
Sure.
so this there were a couple of points that came up in the chat on the side also, just reacting to that. So I was introduced as adjunct faculty IML, which is true, but then most of my work life was with Wipro, and as people that were in the game probably from almost the beginning. Initially, we were trying to recruit, and then we understood that colleges weren't producing ready-made material, so we had to invest efforts in the colleges. But if you see the approach that GCCs have taken, GCCs had a slightly easier source, which is the other IT services folks. Right? So you had that attrition happening now, and with newer GCCs getting set up, where are they going to hire from? Going to hire from ready-made material inside. And I heard some percentages, right, of the top Fortune 50, Fortune 100, very small percentages have set up here. So even more marquee players are going to come in and set up shops here. So naturally, there's going to be a little bit of cannibalization. I just put forward 3 thoughts here. First is be ready for more attrition, because as more GCCs are coming, I saw a very interesting statistic, 1 per day or something like that. And they know, and referral programs apart, the same headhunters and same processes work. So there will be attrition. That is one. Number 2 is, I think GCCs have been more on the being the consumer of the available talent than building talent in the local institutions, barring a few long-term players like IBM, Microsoft, and a few others. Most GCCs have not participated in building talent. I mean, if you go to colleges, you'll commonly find Microsoft Lab or IBM Lab, but you wouldn't see many of your other names there. I think it's time to start nurturing talent, because you're going to need it. Right? The third one is, there are very commonly known established ways by which this can be done. Faculty development programs, hackathons, conferences, academia-focused ones, and being part of board of studies in the organizations, or creating special interest groups as a combination of your organization. Maybe you could adopt a few institutions and build it, or maybe you could adopt a district and help nurture the talent. That's really what it takes, because we've been feeding at the top, and then we find that there is not much. We went in, and then we found out that, oh my God, the barrel is empty. Now we have to start feeding from there. So I think there is a responsibility. This is almost like sustainability initiative. You need to feed that way. Right. So that's my suggestion.
So as plenty of panelists has confirmed that attrition rate is not going to be its ending story. What kind of onus from the government's perspective, even though plenty of states like Karnataka, Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra has recently started talking about their very own GCC policy. So what kind of more, I think, onus we see from the government's perspective? If Shalisa, if you could share some insights on the same.
Actually, the government, of course, will create the enabling, policy. But beyond that, in terms of other things, managing infrastructure or, managing talent and all, obviously um, we go back to the early days of outsourcing. Also, this problem has always been the uh, industry-ready talent has never been available. So companies have had to step in, have had to make extra efforts. I remember, I think Infosys had a training budget of $135 billion or something 15, 20 years back. I'm sure that's gone up. So if you look at AI talent now, AI or any related subjects or machine learning or IoT, I think they're part of the academic curriculum right now in colleges. Also probably some parts of it, coding language would be there, some foundational models might be there, but what the industry wants, there's always been that gap in which the industry has um, met with by having either close collaboration with the academic institutions or having developed some of those modules in-house, and that's how they build the talent, market-ready talent pool. So there will always be some gap which they bridge it. Of course, once that talent gets trained, it's a resource which the entire industry would like to poach. So that leads to attrition and higher demand for that. So we have to do that at scale. So probably it will happen around this time as well. And as for the broader infrastructure, of course, airport connectivity and all is pretty important. So government launched this Udan scheme in 2017, which the larger aim is to get, a lot of regional airports going, and also I think 600 of them are already operational. But other things will have to, be sorted out. So companies will look at if talent is available at scale. They might have a good hub and spoke model, with the center in big cities doing the more complex work because talent is available there. But for some of the routine work and all the tasks, they might go to the tier 2 towns and try and train that talent as well to bring it up to speed. But already, a lot of signs like Chandigarh, because of ISB Mohali is there. Then Coimbatore Institute of Technology. So there's a lot of Pune, as it is an education center, thriving. So that expansion of industry has to happen, and it's going around where the educational institutes are, and to begin with, probably proximity to a big city, so that it becomes easier to sort out some of the infrastructure as well.
Very well put.
Yes, okay. I would like to add few points here on the talent and skilling part, right? And
Yes.
Shelly very rightly said, there are two parts to the skilling. One, or what the industry readiness in terms of their domain knowledge, and also in terms of the soft skills, be it communication, be it the cultural aspects of it, because they need to work with global, workforce with different cultures. So sensitivity to all that is equally important to the success of those people building a career. But some of the myths that I want to burst is that GCCs or tech sector is only about engineers or coming from the STEM sector. There are roles across the board, be it in your commerce stream, your arts and humanities stream. So there are career options available across, because you come with your unique skills which can be then adapted and used for different business purposes. So that's one. Second, in terms of attrition, right? I think there is a big need for addressing that collectively, right? One of the reasons why attrition is, and I was seeing some of the comments there in the Q&A section, is because sometimes we see this 3 months notice periods that people, and somebody has mentioned it as a window shopping period, right? So I think as an industry, as bodies, as stakeholders, we have to be very cognizant of the fact that if we are rewarding, yes, there is always a healthy competition is always welcome, and it is going to promote the overall ecosystem. But the moment you start rewarding things like you are readily available, you can join me in 10 days or 15 days, then it sets wrong precedences. You should be rewarding the right behaviors and the right skills, right? In those 3 months, did you add any additional skill for which you are asking me that additional 10%? This is the question that all of us need to ask who are who are making those hiring decisions. So these are some of the factors that we have to look at collectively, and you know uh, make sure that we are not only thinking about the immediate short term gains that we will make, but look at the long term picture as well.
Very well put together, sir. The long-term picture that you are referring for the talent, same could be applied to the GCC ecosystem as well. Because initial in the 2000, early 2000, in the 1990s, the GCC, the textile instruments and of the likes of such, they were basically taking GCCs and Indian ecosystem as cost arbitrage. But now I think past 2010s, the kind of innovation ecosystem and R&D driven ecosystem that has been generated, that is truly unprecedented. Data centers, center of excellence, the technology centers, law tech center itself, those kind of emergence has been very evident on the surface itself. So what do you think is like driving force behind these kind of R&D? What compels like global companies to reach out to India and set up their R&D centers, a center of excellence or innovation centers? If Sahay sir, you and KS sir, please, if you could elaborate upon the same.
So I think I'll begin with that, and I'll begin with again a figure, right? So
So,
we account for almost world's 24% of STEM talent, right? And almost close to 23% of the digital talent which is available across the world, right? So one key factor is the abundance or the scaling up that can happen from India cannot be matched by probably any other geographies in the world. So that's one natural thing. Second is the work ethics, the cultural aspects of it, right? We are we tend to be more driven towards results, and we have a demonstrated or we have proven skills in that area, so that also attracts a lot of global companies to set up this like this. The third factor is that they have also over a period of if you look at the last 20-25 years, which some of my co-panelists talked about the journey, right? It has been clearly demonstrated that we have at each stage reinvented ourselves and moved up the value chain. And that is a natural progression. That is where you see it is happening, where deep tech innovations and be it AI, Gen AI, those kind of cyber security and blockchain are other set of technologies which are going to go very big or will be a big requirement from these global capability centers perspective. So those are some of the reasons why because we have demonstrated that we could do it, we can scale it up. I think there is a natural pull to India for these for scaling up. And of course, somebody mentioned the demographic dividend that we have right now, which will play out. A young, ambitious, skill set available, a talent pool available there who's ready to conquer the world.
Yeah, well put, actually. So I think somebody mentioned earlier that India is pretty much the digital capital of the world out there, right? The next set of questions are around how come you aren't in India yet? These are the evolving questions, and I wouldn't be surprised if in a few quarters down the line people say that, oh, you are in India, but how come you aren't engaged in XYZ areas? Could be the next set of questions around, are you doing the cutting edge technology needed for encryption or blockchain technologies, or leveraging the amazing set of talent that we have in the digital space for building the next best Gen AI solutions, right? So I think that's where we are heading to: knowledge capital, to digital capital, to the IP capital out there. You name the area, and we have presence over here in India, and that also led us to set up a center over here, right? And we straight away began setting up our leveraging the expertise in the ecosystem over here, whether it's in the digital enablement space or using data as a service across the various CIO verticals that we have, ensuring that there is a fair amount of digital footprint embedded from day one into anything and everything that we do for our consumers and customers from a business banking perspective. So we continue to leverage the amazing academia that we have. One interesting point that you mentioned was how are we ensuring that the government is playing a key role in bringing this whole ecosystem together, right? So we look forward to them, right? Make this a lot more of a closed loop ecosystem. Ensure that there is, a good ear provided to all the GCCs, all the industry out there, where there's a far more easier way to feedback the system that we need when it comes to extracting the right talent or developing the talent. I think I love the word when you said we shouldn't be the consumers of talent, but we should be building talent, right? I think that's a very, very strong point that you said, that GCCs would become the next thought leaders in actually building the IP capital themselves. It has to be a good closed loop system. So I see the government playing a key role here. And we see that all conducive in this space. Okay, the green carpet is now all about who throws or who unfurls the darker shade of green for the GCCs to come here and set the show. So, and the nice healthy competition has begun across states in the country. So we are also in the midst of figuring, where should be our next set of centers coming up, whether it should be in some of the tier 2 cities that you mentioned, or it should be, further growing the footprint that we have in the tier 1 cities like Hyderabad itself. So very excited to be in this space at this point of time. Tough, spoiled for choices, but at the same time, some of the points that Rajesh mentioned, you make attrition part of your life and figure out how do you get over it with your creative means, ensuring that you're looking at far beyond these things. So cool. So really, really excited about this space.
Case very well mentioned the kind of options they are struggling with, the options, all the opportunities that they are in India. So Alok and Rastogi sir, if you guys could elaborate upon the same. Foreign companies, global giants coming down to India for one specific or one key task, and finding the kind of talent, the kind of opportunities, and expanding upon like meteorically from IT services to legal services to business consulting services, their own very operations. So if you guys could elaborate upon foreign nationals, foreign corporations coming down to India and finding a gateway to India through one services and expanding upon the same.
I think the traditional approach has been bring the transaction processing kind of task, whether it is finance, HR, techno-commercial, or procurement, into the GCCs. And I think that is now given because India is the hub, and whenever they talk to all their peers and competitors, every company across the globe in the US or Europe knows that there is a GCC in India. So that is anyway given. I think the strategy has changed that look at the companies, right? All the companies have changed their business strategies. I was reading a McKinsey report. The 70% of the companies in S&P 500 will vanish away in next 3 years. The business model is changing. 50% of the companies have changed their business itself in last 10 years. So GCC is must. And unless you bring strategic projects, unless you bring strategy, that it's just the art of possible people have to look at, right? Right from R&D to innovation to digitization of the organization. And where I was in an agriculture company called Syngenta, I was the APEC head of operations. What technology could do in agriculture is remarkable. In a sector where we have 47 million farmers, and we can bring apps, and 60% of farmers use apps, and you can do whatever. So I think it's just that how you are integrated as a GCC with the business, how GCC can drive the business strategy, enable them, and how fast you can execute. And I think if that ecosystem is built, which allows you to fail fast, do fast, change fast, So GCC can be a key enabler, and I think that's the direction we are moving. In most of the GCCs which are matured, which are 3 to 5 years of aging, and I've seen myself right from when I joined in 93, 94, I was an accounts payable team lead, and what we do and what I have done and what I'm doing in Adani Group is very, very, very different and 360-degree turn. So I think it's the art of possible. It's just that the belief has to be there, and I think our fellow panelists have said there is no dearth of talent. We are the global digital capital. We are the talent capital of the world. And I think it's just the belief that they should have Indian operations. And most of the GCCs I have seen in last 20, 30 GCCs, which I am connected with on a CEO GBS group, a lot of foreigners, a lot of expats are coming here leading those GCCs. So I think the world is changing. Rather than talent drain, it's the other way around. So the talent is inbound, and I think there's a healthy exchange of talent, and people are coming back to India to drive that strategy from here. So I think we are in for exciting times. Yes, of course, there will be challenges in terms of talent, etc., tier 2 cities and ecosystem. I think that has to, and infrastructure is a big issue. And I was hosting 3 NASSCOM visits few months back and something. I think infrastructure is a lot. I may have a best policy in GCs in Bangalore, but it sucks, and they have taken a decision based on infrastructure. So it's just not that you can keep a policy and turn a blind eye of talent and all that. You need to build a ecosystem where the talent is available, they thrive, and they see. So I think we are in for exciting times, and we will be changing the game for the businesses to come.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for elaborating. I mean, as sir has covered almost everything, but I would like to emphasize upon 2-3 areas. First, whatever we are able to witness into GCC, or whatever we are seeing in last few years, in terms of the surge of many multinational corporations coming to India and setting up their GCC, and many are in the pipeline, many are also exploring. So we should see it. We can't see it into isolation. We should see it into the background of the kind of image India has built over a period of time into the IT space. Today, whatever we are witnessing into GCC, it is because of the kind of goodwill, the kind of credibility India has created, or Indians have been able to create overseas, kind of talent we have been able to showcase to the world. So that has also contributed, and it is going to continue. Moreover, if you look at the current scenario, the way GCCs are coming, I'm quite bullish, I'm quite upbeat, because we have been interacting, and I'm sure one of our fellow colleagues, he is also on the line from Russia, and they're also taking quite a keen interest from Russia to invest into India. So why are they taking interest? And that is also we have to see. I mean, what I'm looking at, this phenomenon of GCC coming to India and, of course, surging ahead, going ahead, moving ahead, this is also going to open up Pandora of opportunity for other trade, because it is not going to happen in isolation. So if GCCs are going to set up in India, many other businesses, many other, you can say, the ancillary units of GCC, they are also going to set up, they're also going to come up along with the GCCs. Because why I'm telling you? Because see, ultimately, I know India is known, but once you get into a country, you understand the country, you also understand the strength and weaknesses of the country, right? So once they understand the global the global fraternity, once they come across India, more and more they join India. So obviously they will feel that there are other opportunities, they will see, they will earmark, and they would also like to see. So according to me, this whole GCC phenomenon is basically, according to me, what I was saying to my colleagues also, it is going to prove that it is going to be a gateway to India. So many of the companies, days to come, years to come, months to come, they'll be finding the opportunities in India. They will also see the Indian strength, and they might come along with the GCC. This is what I would like to add on. Thank you.
There's one comment I will make. I was with KS Vishwanath, who's part of the NASSCOM and KSV a couple of weeks back. And he was in the ET GCC summit, and he made a comment The
Sure.
biggest competition will come from Middle East, Dubai, where they're saying, open the GCC and we'll do everything for you, right for infrastructure, right for talent and all that. So I'm worried that, the other countries, neighboring countries are seeing this as an opportunity as well. And they have much better ecosystem in terms of taxation, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of policy. So you may see something happening next 3 to 5 years, not an imminent threat, but there could be a talent drain and talent moving out because that becomes very attractive proposition. So
Sure.
I think that is something to watch out for the NASSCOM, that we are able to hold and then we continue to deliver value which India is known for.
Right. Thank you, sir. I would like Shelly, if Shelly can contribute on it. I mean, this is something very important and pertinent area, Shelly. Over to you.
Yeah, obviously, foreign companies, are a lot more interested in setting up the centers. They they want to build scale. They want easy access to talent. They want to deliver services. So, but how will it work out is, it has to, already our cities are overcrowded, but it can be a double-edged sword. It's like, okay, a lot of talent is available, but how do we go about setting it up? About 55-60% of the GCCs are from the US. You mentioned about someone from Russia also, listening in and all. And I met some, companies from Japan who were in Bangalore, and in the first when they first landed, they were so confused. The people who came in, they said, "Where do we start?" It's not easy for even if they use the consultancy route or whatever. So it's not easy to grapple with and understand the on-ground situation. But obviously, 1,700 GCCs have come up, and more than 100 are being set up each year. So that means definitely there is a global push of GCCs towards India, and for all the very good reasons that we've already spoken about. So I think this move will only get bigger. And like all the data points also point to, NASSCOM has said, and others also, like by 2030, there'll be more than 3,000 GCCs. So from now on to then, we're almost looking at more than 200 GCCs per year. So the infrastructure issues have to be addressed. Talent issues have to be addressed, but despite all this, since it's attractive, so it definitely points to in the right direction. That's how I would put it.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Shelly.
As Shelly sir put very thoughtfully, and across the board, I think all the panelists agree that many more GCCs are, even though the growth has been unprecedented, going to be meteoric up to the 2030s at least. So if you guys could share some perspective or your own personal expertise, I think Menon sir and Rastogi sir would be perfect for this question. What kind of prioritization should they do for future proofing their GCCs? Like, should they be working upon enhancing the capacity of their GCC? Should it be working on the capabilities? Or should they solely focus on the business case or their IP or services they are going to provide?
Sorry, before we get on that, just one point which came to mind was, around this time, also from November 22 onwards, so AI-led disruption. So that's resetting the whole thing for the entire industry. So if Fortune 1000 companies, Fortune 2000 companies were doing certain things, suddenly many of those tasks have become legacy. Of course, you need to maintain them, you need to run them. And that's why, you have more than 5 million people in the IT services industry running them, maintaining them, and also building new ones. Now, GCCs, the whole thing is they need to, the whole world wants, all the companies want to be ahead in this AI game. So how do they get there faster, better? How do they improve their own algorithm so that an e-commerce company gets a better idea of where the customer is, what he or she wants, or a paints company or any other company wants to develop new products and all. That's why probably the sudden boom in GCs, because we are into another disruptive layer of IT. Please go ahead. Sorry.
So very pertinent point. And I believe there are two things which will shape the one. The GCCs needs to create the COEs, and the COEs will come from India, whether Center of Expertise for Analytics, whether it is digitization. I created a forensics science center here. So you really move the value curve because the talent is there. We had a cyber intelligence center, cyber support center. So you need to create the COEs. I think that's the way to go. The second thing for GCC to survive is not the volume of transactions, the level of people, the number of people. I think it's all about how you bring efficiency into the processes the organization have by standardization, consolidation, automation, transformation. The second biggest thing is for a group like us, where it is effectiveness, which is assurance, the numbers are good, trustworthy, one source of truth. The third is experience for stakeholders and the employees and the people you deal with. And I think that's where GCC will play a role, because most of your processes will be run out of India or through the GCCs. And the fourth thing is continuous improvement and innovation, which is excellence, operations excellence. So unless you focus on that, you continuously improve and innovate while the technology will come. We talked about AIs, and being part of the panel in AIs, there are not many large use cases in the GCCs so far. They are yet to catch up. They are one or two, because ethical part of it, data privacy, data concerns are still there, which needs to be addressed before the AI gets implemented across the GCCs, larger ones. But I think continuous improvement and innovation is what will keep us going and will keep us relevant in the overall context. And that's how we'll build our talent and expertise and will deliver strategic value to the group. I think that's what I feel, right from excellence, operation excellence, experience, efficiency, and effectiveness. I think these are the 4 E's I will say the GCCs have to focus if they have to become relevant.
No, that's a fair point. But some great points touched upon here. One, I think there was one NASSCOM study which said that in the last 5 years, maturity rate on GCC have increased close to 18%. Now, when they capsule what maturity rates are all about, I think they've put it into 3 categories. One, GCCs should start working probably more on creating portfolio hubs. Our global customers are extremely demanding when they start a GCC. They always look at how well you fare from an incubation to an expert develop center. That makes a big game changer, because nowadays I don't think we go back in the traditional formats of you have 6 months of training and then you'll get into production or so on. We really look at people who absolutely have plug and play thought process, and we're happy to bring them on board, which also means to say that experience and flexibility, creating a transformation hub is a very important factor when you talk about GCC staying relevant the way they have to be these days. Because everything we're doing in the next 2 to 3 years becomes tradition and legacy. We have to move on from there. We have to elevate from there, and the scalability has to be there. You need to redefine your wheel. You need to redefine your processes. Very well said. Process excellence are the ones which really will keep you sustained. People will come, go, but then who are the best ones to be in there? Creating that kind of competitive portfolios within your GCC is extremely important. Like you said, geographies also are coming into this game where, like you said, Dubai, I know Costa Rica has been a player which has always been a risk threatening at India on the knock of the door, because they're being very flexible in the way how they're happy to work. Shift timings being available at global time zones is a very big key factor too. When you look at India, I think we have one probable geography where we have people working across shifts. We still available to cater to the 24/5 kind of dynamics and catering the demographics of what the requirement of the industries are. While doing so, if we need to be staying more relevant and building huge value propositions out of this, it is important to be flexible, scalable, and ensuring there's consistency in the way we kind of deliver things. Any kind of shortfalls is an easy access to someone else to pick up the competition from us. And it's a very competitive market. Now, like all of us talk, we do, all of us probably do a lot many different things to keep things moving the way it is and how to bring in more. We all think about how can we do things better, cutting short time, making processes which are very more streamlined. You remove point of failures which are coming in through. That probably will keep us going. I think that's the only way we keep us absolutely well known in the organization and how GCCs can make an impact in the long-term thought process.
Yeah.
Sir, if you could elaborate upon as
So I have
Shelly
a
sir-
hard stop. I need to leave. I have a meeting with Gautam. I need to go. But thank you, panelists, and thank you, everybody. I'm sorry. This is a pressing meeting, but thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Pleasure
Thank
knowing
you very much.
Just
Thank you.
Sir.
put up with you, sir. There have been like I think hundreds of questions pointed toward you in the chat box. If you could kindly mail you the same, and we would like to just like key pointers if you could reply upon the same.
Absolutely. More than happy to do that. Thank you
Sure.
very much.
Thank you so much.
Good
Thank
night,
you for
everybody.
being here,
Thank
sir.
you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
night.
So, Yashashvi,
Sir.
if you can even take up maybe one question you can take up, then I would like request you to take up the questions from the open house.
Sure, sir. The chats has been flooding in. Just this question, I would like to point towards Professor Sir, Sridhar Sir. Rastogi Sir was also talking about, I think Menon Saab also talked about, and Shelly Sir also pointed, while the talent and all these things have been always been pertinent in India, the recent phenomenon of this innovation-led driven and splurges, all these things have been made possible only through AI, ML, and deep tech integration. So, you being an expert of over 3 decades in the same, if you could shine some light upon the same, please.
See, the concept of innovation has always been there. I think we've had service innovation, product innovation, and whether it was GCCs or India IT services, ER&D, for example, has always been happening, and even in the other spaces, stellar work has happened. But what Gen AI kind of offers us is an amazing opportunity to do innovation, to reduce the cycle time, and to probably show the GCCs themselves in a very different light. But it is now possible for organizations to kind of connect the front-end design of a product, if I can simplify things, to also include how the components would play out, the simulations, and test various options, reduce the overall search space, so to say, in the number of candidates that may be there in search for the right mix, etc. So if I can just bring out, when Gen AI presents a great opportunity to bring in recombinative type of innovation, that has been my suggestion wherever I've been to. So it gives us a chance to participate in the R&D space in a way that will make it very attractive for the parent organization. So probably the other panelists want to add to it.
I think Menon Sir would be the perfect person to respond to it, sir.
No, I totally agree. I think it's important, very, very important, the points touched upon where we see very geographically or how we want to make it more important in the way how GCCs looks through. The key factors will always remain about how we can scale ourselves, be it from a transformation point of view or be it from an innovation standpoint. The people factor is always going to be there, but I also want to touch upon one more factor, is the cultural thought process. How these GCCs, when people come in, how culturally we can imbibe into the GCC thought process of elevating our structures, in the way we want to build pipelines, and that's going to make a big impact, I think, overall. That'll be a game changer.
Good.
I think, team, we could give access to a couple of. There have been plenty of questions. If we could give access
So
to a couple.
let me.
Yashasvi,
Yes, Yashasvi.
sorry, gentlemen. I have a hard stop at 9. I will have to jump off. But it was a pleasure being on with you guys, and
Same here,
I'll
same
hear
here.
from you guys. Yeah,
So
thank you
thank
so
you
much.
for joining us.
Thank you, Rajesh.
I
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I had something similar too, and I was able to connect with everyone else. Rajesh,
Yeah.
yes.
Can we request? Can we take up 1 or 2 questions? If there are any questions, then we can. We can conclude this session itself.
I can maybe take one question and leave, Alok.
Yeah.
Sure,
So maybe
Team,
1
could
or 2
you just
questions.
send out a couple of people who would like to answer, ask some questions, sir. Please, quickly. Meanwhile, as the team setups, there was one question that was very pertinent to the current landscape. And the question was, I think, for the Lloyd's team, KS Rajesh, sir. They were basically inquiring about how you guys are dealing with the IP issues between the parent company and the GCC, and the kind of data reservation they might have. So if you could elaborate upon the same.
Sure. Actually, a very good question. Given a bank like ours, which operates within the guardrails of, stringent regulatory norms over there, right? And it's not just about norms that are set in the UK, the parent organization's home country, but also how we operate our own on our own in the country, which happens via India here, right? Very, very stringent data regulations, data privacy, ensuring that we are honoring the norms that are set forth by the parent organization as well. So we ensure that often a lot of paperwork are always in place, but that apart, it eventually boils down to how secure your ecosystem is within that GCC setup that you've built, right? How is it that you're ensuring that the IP protection, whether it's in terms of the code that you generate, develop on your laptops, the way you handle data, whether it's your machines that you carry forth from home back and forth, how well are you ensuring that it's secured, biometrics or two-factor authentication that we bring into the place, the type of network that we operate in. I think we're ensuring that these
Thank you.
The GCC setup, and this helps us in ensuring that we are always checking the boxes when it comes to preventing any data leaks or breaches or IP contamination. So data protection, whether it's the likes of GDPR or our own over here, we curb by that. We are having our legal teams, we are having our IT teams working closely with each other to ensure that the new policies that are rolled out are immediately implemented, and we operate here. So it is now by design embedded in every Scrum team or projects or business units that we set up, and ensuring that data protection is of utmost importance.
Thank you,
data,
Rajesh.
consumer data, everything.
Right. Thank you. So can we, if you have any question, 1 or 2 questions we can take up. Anybody from those who are yes.
Yes, so my question is to Mr. Shelly, sir.
Can you please share your name also?
So myself, Kalash.
Yes.
Yeah. So my question is this, like, how are GCCs impacting the job creation and like boosting the innovation and R&D ecosystem in India?
Thanks a lot for the question. Interesting. So job creation, obviously there's a lot of demand for professionals, and not only IT professionals, like one of the panelists said, even other streams. So that is, obviously huge thing. They will be, I mean, if by 2030 they're going to be 3,500 GCCs, we're talking about doubling from the current level. So already they employ around 1.5 million professionals. So another 1.5 million professionals will be needed. So that's like, a massive job creation happening in one sector, alone, which is going to impact global companies. So that's, yeah.
Right. Thank you. So what I'll do, I mean, we will wrap up this session.
Sure.
And I'll request those whosoever have questions, they can share their questions through email or maybe through chat box itself. We will note down the questions and accordingly we will respond back to you. We will share with you, all of you, if you can actually respond on their question, because people may have
Yes, sir.
what I have been told by my team, that people have a specific question with respective panelists. So we will request you that we will be sharing with you, and if at all you can respond it back, that will really be great on your part. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining. I'm sure the such kind of deliberation is going to take this whole movement and it's going to give it a new sphere, new height. Thank you once again very much, all of you, for joining. It was indeed a pleasure to have you all. Thank you once again. Good night, sir. Let's stay in touch. Thank you,
Good
sir.
night, sir. Good night, Sally, sir. Good night, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alok, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all. Good night to all.
Thank you. Bye.
Good
sir.
night, sir. Bye.